Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Sky's the Limit, your inspiration station with coaches Wendy, Krista, and Shermin. Our goal is to search out and share with you the latest news about how to become and stay empowered to make the most transformative lifestyle choices. For 30 minutes each Monday at 12 noon Eastern Time, you will have the opportunity to hear inspiring interviews with coaches specializing in a variety of life-transforming areas. It is our intent to provide your once-a-week break of inspiration to carry you throughout your week. Your co-hosts are Wendy, who is a Body Beautiful coach, Krista, who is a healthy lifestyle transformation coach, and Shermin, who is a life sanity coach. It is important to know that all of the concepts and information presented during any of our shows are for educational purposes only. They are not intended to be used for the purpose or substitute of any diagnosis, treatment, prevention, or curing of any disease or condition without the care and advice of a qualified licensed medical professional. We highly recommend a visit with your doctor prior to attempting any new behavior that may affect your health. Again, welcome to Sky's the Limit, your inspiration station. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week's episode of Sky's the Limit Radio. This is Shermin, one of your co-hosts, and I'm here today with our other co-host, Krista. Hello, Krista.
Hello, Shermin, and a warm welcome to all our listeners out there. This is Krista.
Yes, welcome, everybody, and we have a great show for you today. Let me tell you, if you are dissatisfied with the corporate status quo, or you are exhausted at the end of every workday, or you're sick and tired of just being sick and tired, are you scared to take risks, feeling you have to stay at your good enough, quote-unquote, job? If you identify with any of these types of questions, then this show today is really especially for you. Listen up, and you may find out what may be slowing you down, what the thing is that's in your way, getting in the way, or stopping you from attaining your dream job. Our guest today is Certified Master Coach Practitioner Christopher Lawrence. Christopher has spent over 10 years working in the corporate world with a plethora of industries and companies. And his focus has primarily been in planning and strategy and leadership of change management and communication, where he worked with the 5 generations that are now in the workforce. Krista?
In addition to being a certified master coach practitioner, Christopher is also a trainer and a facilitator and a passionate public speaker who truly cares about the success of each and every single person he comes in contact with. After spending 10 years as an active alumnus and more than 5 years as chairperson of an academic advisory committee at a local college, and 5 more years as president of a condominium corporation, Christopher developed a huge passion for not only formal education but also experiential learning, education that comes from living life. Through this experience, Christopher is able to identify and leverage personal experiences into something solid, tangible, and spiritual. Today, Christopher is going to give us some helpful tips on how we can find our dream job by listening to the voice we've been ignoring our whole life. Welcome to Sky's the Limit, Christopher. We're so glad to have you on our show today.
Thank you so much. I am so glad to be here.
Okay, Christopher, so let's jump right into this exciting topic. Can you tell us about what kind of results the clients that have worked with you have received?
Sure, absolutely. I've got a couple of really fascinating examples, and one of them in particular strikes me in this moment. I had a client who she was in her mid-30s, and she had been trained as an educator So as an educator, she was kind of out there in the world doing her teaching thing, and she really wanted to move into industry. She started teaching in high school, and then she moved into college. And after a few sessions with me, she was able to take a huge risk. She quit her college teaching job and decided to start her own business. And she's flourishing now. Like, I just love it. So that's one example. So you have a pretty good chance of not being in your job if you coach with me. On the alternative, I have another client who sometimes people need to stay where they are, and so they feel they were ready to leave their job, and after coaching with me for a few sessions, they found their passion again about why they do what they do, and we were able to help them shift their perception to stay where they are.
That's very interesting. So you help them in a way clarify what they really want, what their passions are, what their goals are.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you use that word passion too, because I think it goes beyond passion. It's something that makes you feel strong. I'm really passionate about politics, but it doesn't often make me feel strong. So this is something where it's like, yeah, if there's passion there, that's great too. But what is it that's going to make you feel strong every day, knowing that you do this for 8 hours a day, day in and day out? What's going to make you feel strong so that you can wake up every day?
That's interesting. So you draw a big distinction between passion and feeling. By feeling strong, you mean feeling accomplished or feeling that you're in the right place? So how do you feel?
Yeah.
How do you define feeling strong?
Yeah, I think for me, the way that I define that is things that give you strength. So it's this is less of a formal definition, but more of an experience. So it's kind of like if you work all day, 8 hours a day, and maybe it's Thursday, and you work a Monday to Friday, and so it's the end of the week, and we're starting to get a little bit tired. If you are not feeling tired, if you're feeling like, it's like at the end of my day, I've got time left for my family, I've got time left to go to the gym, I've got time left for my hobbies, things that I really love and enjoy, I've got time left to go visit friends, and I don't feel drained.
Okay. So that's the key word.
Yeah,
it doesn't drain you if you're in the right job. You almost feel energized when you're doing it.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Very, very interesting concept. I've never heard it quite, made anybody make that distinction quite like you have. Charmin?
Yeah, I really, what I liked about what you just said, what kind of touched me, was about shifting your perspective so that, you help people to find their passion, find what makes them feel strong, find what makes them feel so that they're not drained at the end of the day, but actually energized. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to quit everything you're doing right now and change your whole life around, but there may be ways to find that in your current situation by shifting your perspective. I like that idea. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's very fascinating, actually, when you look at, what happened in the U.S. in 2008, and maybe you look at, like, the East Coast of Canada where sometimes jobs are a little more scarce to come by. And sometimes leaving is not always an option. It's like you take the job that is in front of you, whether you're flipping burgers or you're the CEO of a company, and you might not enjoy either of those, but either way, that's the job, right? And so how do we make that, shift the perception? And I've got some really fun ways that we can do that.
That's very good to hear, because I think that's scary a lot. I mean, when I think about, well, I'm not happy with this, and to make it better, I'm going to have to just throw my life into chaos upside down and all that. But that's not necessarily what needs to happen. And also it can go step by step. You don't have to do it all at once. And that's kind of what I'm hearing from you. So that's really good to hear. Now, you also say that, and I think this is probably a big part of what comes into play with this, that listening to your true voice is what's going to lead you to the answer to finding your dream job or finding where your passion or your strengths lie. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, I think this is so important, especially now. I think, we've kind of moved into this society where we don't hear ourselves anymore because there's so much information. So we feel like before we make a decision, we need somebody else to tell us. And then we get more information, which leads us to more information, which leads us to more. And so we kind of get lost in the noise. And so one of the things that I had to do with myself, and something that I do with my clients, is we really teach people about the 3 stages to honoring your voice. And so the first stage is really you hear your voice. It's kind of like, if we were to look at it metaphorically, there's a knock at the door, and you hear the knock, and maybe you're not answering it, right? Maybe you put yourself under the pillow, or maybe you get close to the door and you're like, you're trying to look through the peephole, but you're really hesitantly approaching it, and so it's kind of like, the knock is there. You know that something is not right, and we know the knock is there when we start to feel like we're not in line with ourselves. When things start to get really hard, when it's hard to get up in the morning, and when it's hard to go to work, when you just look at the work in front of you and go, why am I doing this? That's a knock at the door. Mm-hmm. The next piece is listening to your voice. So this is kind of like when you're like, okay, the knock is getting louder, right? And this is what happens. If we don't listen to the voice, if we don't hear the knock, it just gets louder. It's like, I'm going to let you know I'm here, right?
Yeah.
And so this is kind of like, you walk up, you look through the peephole, maybe you hesitantly yell through the door, who's there? And then that you're doing that when you're kind of exploring, right?
Yeah.
And I know this is where people kind of get into that stage of like gathering information, and sometimes they gather and gather and gather and gather, and there's no action that happens. And that's why we have to go into honoring your voice, which is whatever is on the other side of that door, good, bad, ugly, amazing, scary, you just kind of maybe open the door a little bit. Sometimes we open it all the way. We've seen people do that too, right? But maybe we start by going, eep, here we go, and you open it, and it's like, whatever is there, I have to invite in. And with career coaching, usually what's there is a whole lot of belief systems about what work should look like and how that probably doesn't serve us anymore. Not always, but sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So it's that knock at the door. I love the metaphors that you're using, by the way. That just brings it home. Yeah, so much more. So the knock at the door, not really answering, the knock getting louder being the second part where you're finally starting to kind of listen and you start to gather some information, but you're still kind of stuck. And then the third part being honoring your voice and opening that door, however little, but starting to open and see what's on the other side and how you can engage with that the best way possible. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's terrifying for people.
I was going to ask that, especially what I'm thinking about is the steps between, 2 and 3, step 2 and 3, that, we often get so stuck, like, you said with gathering information. We just keep gathering and gathering, and we want it to be perfect before we, open that door. And we gather all this stuff, and we're not even sure what's on the other side, and we may be completely wasting time. But that's so hard. I think that's the hard part, that, getting stuck between 2 and 3. Do you have things, I'm sure, that you're working, that you do, exercises to help people through that particular stage?
Yes, absolutely. At that point, it's usually when people come to me, they're already in step 2 by the time they come to me, because that's that exploration. Not always, but usually. To get from step 2 to step 3, for some people that happens really quickly, and for some people it can be a longer journey. So what we do, I mean, there's lots of really specific things that I can give. Some of it, can involve journaling and exploration and that kind of thing. Sometimes it's about taking action, though, right? So lots of times it's like I'll have people that come to me and they've got stacks of information and personality tests and this and that, and it's like, this one says this, and I've done an analysis on this, and this one says that, and it's like, why don't you just go try something? It's like, go out and try something. Let's not think about it anymore. And if you need to think, throw it in your journal and get it out of your head, and then go take action. And we'll talk about what action step that might be. And for some people, it's a really small, minute thing just to get them to do something a little bit different and see what it feels like.
Yeah. Different for different people, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think, Krista, you had a question about that as well.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment about something that sort of rang a bell with me when you said that a lot of times when people start opening, when they get into phase 3, they discover a lot of what's holding them back is the belief system. What work should look like, and a lot of times this comes even from, what we've heard from our parents. Many people, how many times have we heard that people end up in professions that they really don't like, but they're fulfilling their parents' dream, or, their parents thought it was a good idea for them to become this and that, and they end up not being happy in their career choice. So,
or they get stuck by the high salary. And their beliefs around
too, the high salaries, definitely big tempting, very tempting.
Yes.
And but they may not be happy in the job that they chose. So
that's exactly.
So the knocking has to get really, really loud sometimes to go over and above the salary and the parents and your beliefs and all that other stuff that's creating a lot of noise.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Christopher, when people work with you, can you give us an example of what people what experiences they can expect when they're working with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll usually work with my clients in person or over the phone, depending on where they're located. And when they work with me, initially in the beginning, it's a lot of exploration, right? And my job is to start where the client is. I'd love to, having done this myself, rip the door open and say, here you go. But we also know when we do that, sometimes the doors, they slam the door shut real fast and maybe they don't ever go back. So I need to start where the client is. And that's, I think, the really great part about the experience with me is that I'll take a gentle approach for those that need it. And when you come in, we're going to start just by having some conversations. We're going to do some exploration. We're going to try some really fun tools just to see what works and stick. And some of it will work and some of it won't. For those that require the creativity in how they're coached, this is a great place to come. Because I have all sorts of tools and fun things that we try. And my goal is just to kind of prepare people in the beginning with the tools. So it's like, let's try this, let's do that for a couple of weeks and see how that goes. And then maybe we'll turn up the volume a little bit. And then we'll turn up the volume a little bit more. And so when we're turning up the volume, sometimes it's something that's very client-directed, and sometimes it's directed by me, because I think maybe there's some approach avoidance there.
That's interesting.
And so we need to get that, it's like, do you need a fire? Do you need me to light a fire for you so you can start running? Sometimes we're there.
Yeah. So you talk about, Christopher, finding meaning and direction in your work more so over finding a job that you're passionate about, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit further?
Yeah, absolutely. I think here's the thing about passion. I love passion. I think most people, after they talk to me for a few minutes, know that I'm a pretty passionate guy. But I can get passionate about lots of things. You know, if I have the right teacher, I can be passionate about car mechanics or skiing or whatever it is. You know, and I gave the example of being passionate about politics.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And religion too, right? Like I love studying the religions. But passion can be fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
And passion doesn't always give us strength. And
right.
and this is that piece around if you find meaning in what you do and you have direction, I think that creates the sustainability piece that maybe you
right.
don't get.
Mhm. Right. No, that makes
with
makes
just
a lot of
passion.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good explanation, Christopher. That makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Krista. You had another question?
Yeah. So, Christopher, can you give us like one piece of advice for our listeners to help them get started on their journey?
Yeah, I think if there was one piece of advice that now I have to pick one. I'm really passionate about this, so.
Now we're holding your feet to the fire.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the deal. If what I would say is just look for the signs. If you look at what you do on a daily basis, and at least 80% of the time, which I think is low, 80% of the time, if you don't feel energized at the end of your day because of the tasks that you have on your plate, it's time to start exploring.
Mm-hmm.
Start exploring.
That's a good one.
Just
Yeah.
start listening to the knock and start opening the door just a little bit. Just a little bit. It's like, I'm exploring this, but maybe I need to try something. And trying something can be really like as simple as, you know what, I think I might be interested in this
just
kind
to
of
kind
thing.
of start being open to the idea that I might be interested.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then talk to somebody that's in that, right? And that's the opening the door piece, the taking action piece, right? There are people out there who, if you take them for a coffee, will talk all day about the work that they do.
Mhm.
Right.
And sometimes you just got to reach out, right? Sometimes opening the door is saying, boss, I'm struggling here. And I know that this task is something I really enjoy doing. Could I have a little bit more of that?
Right. And that's what I like about what you're mentioning, that it doesn't have to be this high-risk, high-scary thing. You can take a little step. You can open the door just a tiny bit and then see from there where you go. Yeah. That's a really good message, I think, to let people know about. So before we run out of time, I want to be sure that we ask you a little bit about your Find Your Dream Job Now seminar. I know you have that great seminar going on, and I just really want to be sure you let our audience know what that's all about.
Yeah, sounds great. Right now the seminar is done in person in Calgary, but we are looking at moving this to an online format as well. And what you get out of it, I have 4 speakers that come, and it's 6 hours. And what you get out of it is we look at various perspectives in jobs and finding the right job for you and finding your dream job. And we kind of start with the end in mind, being the ultimate end.
Mm-hmm.
And so we start by talking about your funeral. It's really fascinating, and we weren't sure that it was going to work when we first did it, but it's really resonated with people because they realize that it's like, I don't want to be at this age. I don't want to be, 90, 100, 110 years old and think, this is what I've done with my life.
Right.
So we start there.
Definitely helps you focus on what is important in your life when you start working backwards.
Yes, absolutely.
kind of confront you with, like what Krista said, what's really important, rather than getting bogged down in all the, like the noise, the other noise that's going on around you, which sometimes that's all it is. It's noise, and you got to get through that to hear what's really important. Wow. Now, I understand that you also have a special offer for our listeners today, Christopher?
Yeah, I think what I'm going to offer this time is anybody that is interested, I would be willing to have a coaching session with them. So we would take 50 minutes, and we would just sit down, and we would just start to open the door a tiny little bit for anybody that's interested. And I'm not too worried about getting too busy because I've got a couple of other coaches that help me who are just as qualified and really amazing people.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you so much for doing that. That's fantastic. And what would be the best way that people can reach you then to set something like this up with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you go to my website, which is changemylifecoaching.ca. It's a .ca because we're up in Canada here.
That's right. changemylifecoaching.ca, and what we'll do is we'll put that on our Facebook page after the show with the recording so that people will have that information, anybody who didn't catch that just now. Thank you so much again, Christopher. That's very generous of you. Really, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Christopher. We would love to continue talking with you, but we're afraid we're almost out of time. We just have to bring you back another time. I hope you would like to come back.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to.
Okay. Thank you so much for being our guest on our show today. And thank you, our audience, for tuning in again today to Sky's the Limit and taking advantage of learning all about how to find your dream job. We appreciate you for listening and following us and hope you enjoyed our show today as much as we did. As always, the best way to get more information about upcoming shows is to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Sky's the Limit Radio. Please feel free to share your thoughts, comments, and feedback on our Facebook page. We love to hear from you. Or you can visit us at our new website at www.skystheliमिtradio.com to stay up to date on all the good stuff we have coming up for you in the coming weeks and months. To listen to recordings of past shows you may have missed, go to Blog Talk Radio at www.blogtalkradio.com/Sky's the Limit. You never know, you might discover the one episode that might make a difference in your life. Also remember to go to www.skysthelimitradio.com to get our new Sky's the Limit Inspiration Kit. Until next time, everyone, and remember, the sky's the limit to what you can do. Have a great week, everyone. Goodbye. Goodbye, Christopher.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Goodbye, everyone.
Take care.